Today we are going to take an $11 home center chisel like this and make it work like a $55 boutique chisel like this. Right out of the package, more often than not, they don't come very sharp, but I always like to try them first and see how they did at the factory. I mean, this could use some refinement. A chisel is a pretty basic tool. A dull chisel is just a wedge that can force wood fibers apart. But what we really want to do is slice wood fibers. And to do that, we need to get this thing really, really sharp. I'm using a diamond plate right now, and that's because it's a guaranteed flat surface that has a good abrasive in it. These plates are a fantastic investment, but they are a little bit on the pricey side. So if you're not even sure if you like using hand tools yet, a great way to get started would be to use a flat piece of wood with some wet dry sandpaper on it. I've got a link for the stuff that I use below. Anytime you're removing metal, it's great to use a lubricant. Here is water, but you can use oil if you're using a diamond plate or an oil stone as well. I am going to set my body up to have my dominant foot forward, my non-dominant foot back, and if there's a way I can maneuver my foot so it's a little bit under the table, that's ideal. I want to have as few moving parts in this sharpening process as possible because I want to eliminate any variables that might happen as I'm trying to sharpen. A truly sharp chisel will have a perfectly flat back, which means that we'll probably have to flatten it. And as I turn the ruler and hold this towards a light source, I'm looking to see if there's any cracks of light that are starting to appear. And the bevel, or this angled bit here, is going to meet that flat back along the entire leading edge perfectly with zero rounding. A lot of people run into trouble when they first start learning how to sharpen because they accidentally start rounding over this front edge of their chisel. We're going to talk about how not to do that. I'm using a Sharpie marker to black out the back of this chisel so that I can actually see where material is getting removed. I am going to set my chisel down like this. I'm going to then use my pointer finger of both hands to lift the back of the chisel up so that it sits flat on the stone. And actually, if you're looking really, really closely, you can actually see the water underneath it getting displaced as it finds that flat. But really, what you're looking for is a click here. Now, I have my body kind of centered like this, and I'm going to practice a really fancy dance move with my abs really tight, and I'm going to put my pointer fingers on the tip of the chisel there, and I'm going to practice actually at the front of my stone, leaning forward, locking my wrists and my elbows and everything I possibly can against my body, and I'm going to press on the tip of the chisel on either side and rock back onto my back foot. You can now push it forward like this by rocking back onto your front foot. Now, I want you to look at my fingers here. I am not applying a ton of pressure here. In fact, it's literally just only enough to keep the back of the chisel from falling down. Then I can wrap my little pinky around the bottom of the chisel to just give it a little bit more support, which will help me to put less pressure here. If we're putting a ton of pressure here, A, we're making this job a little harder than it needs to be, but B, we will be likely to be putting more pressure on one side or the other on accident, which will actually lead us to create some errors. Straight from the factory, this has a really unique scratch pattern on it. A rookie mistake when sharpening tools for the first time is to remove all of our Sharpie marks, but not actually to remove enough of the metal from the back of this chisel to get down below that original scratch pattern. If we don't get below that and polish it out, we're going to have a rough or a weak, jagged edge even after we've gone through all of the motions of sharpening this tool in the first place. As I look at this, I'm looking for this original scratch pattern on here to change to the scratch pattern that the stone is creating. So you can see how there's a little hollow there, but here, here, and all the way across the leading edge, which is all we really care about, has been flattened. One really cool thing about metal is that when you remove metal, like you're sanding it off with this abrasive surface, you're also moving metal. So as I remove metal from the back of this chisel, I should actually feel what's called a burr starting to get pushed from this side of the chisel up towards the bevel here. It's going to be invisible to your eye, but if you can feel that little catch happen, you will know that you have raised a burr across the entire leading edge and you'll be almost ready to go. Once we know that this back is totally flat, we can switch to the bevel. We're going to, once again, use the Sharpie to black out the entire bevel here. Start with the back of the chisel on the bench, and we're going to put our pointer fingers as near towards the tip as we possibly can. We'll curl our little pinky finger up around the back. We're starting at the top of our stone here, and we want to lift until we feel that bevel click into place. The way the human body works, it is a whole lot more controllable to pull than to push. So when we're sharpening the bevel, we're going to do it only on the pull stroke. It looks like I'm pressing really hard, but I'm really not. Then I pull back, come back to the front, reset, pull back. Once you have removed that original scratch pattern off of the bevel, and you've confirmed that there is a burr raised across the entire back of the blade, then we need to remove the burr. So one more time, we're going to flip the chisel over. We're going to put the back down on our abrasive surface. We're going to put our fingers there just like normal, and we are going to take one swipe back. Chisels are not the only hand tool that you can get from the home center either. In fact, you really only need these 9 tools to get started with hand tool woodwork. Check out the whole list on my Squarespace blog, anneofalltrades.com. I've been blogging on Squarespace for the last 8 years, which means there is a lot of material there that can help you on your woodworking journey. Learn how to cut dovetails, how to use a handsaw properly, how to restore antique tools and give them new life. Squarespace is a fantastic platform for people like me who are not super tech savvy to be able to easily drag and drop whatever I want to put out there in the world and share it through a beautiful artist design template. If you're interested in starting your own website, go to squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AnneOfAllTrades for a 10% discount. And now our chisel is technically ready to go. After about 5 minutes of sharpening work, this is not quite as amazing as my other tools, but it is certainly not bad. To be able to take a paper-thin shaving like this off of a chisel from our local home store is very cool. So now you know everything that you need to know about chisels to go out and start practicing joining pieces of wood together without screws, glues, or nail, and to make things that truly last. When I'm done using my chisels, I want to give them a quick spritz with oil. Just about any oil will do, and then I wipe them off with a microfiber cloth. I also like to be really careful not to put them somewhere where they're going to jut up a bunch of other metal objects clanging around inside my tool chest. So sometimes I'll even wrap my chisels up in my microfiber cloth in a way that's going to protect those nicely sharpened edges. A fancier way to do that is to get a chisel roll like this. If you want to know more about hand tool woodworking, check out this video. I will see you there. Cheers!